Welcome back to BeSleepy Storytelling. This is the final part of Silence Between Voices. The city has fallen completely silent. Every sound has vanished, except one. Tonight, Elias discovers what waits in the quiet when the world stops listening. Take a moment to breathe. This is part 3, The Echo.
Part 3, The Echo. By the time the city fell silent, Elias had stopped expecting it to. The constant hum that had once filled the air, traffic, voices, music, life, simply faded, layer by layer, as if someone were turning down the volume of the world. It wasn't sudden. It happened so gradually that he didn't notice the moment it stopped. Only when he spoke aloud one morning, testing his own voice, did he realize he couldn't hear it. His mouth moved. He felt the breath leave his lungs, but there was no sound. He touched his throat. The vibration was there, faint and real, but the air around him swallowed it whole. Outside, the streets were full. People still moved, walking, gesturing, laughing soundlessly. But it was as though every sound had been taken from them. For a while, Elias tried to convince himself that it was only him, that something inside his head had gone wrong. But as he stood at his window, watching the world move in perfect silence, he felt the same pulse that had haunted him for weeks, thrumming beneath his feet. The city wasn't silent, it was listening. Inside the apartment, the whispering had ceased. The walls no longer murmured, the floor no longer sighed. But the stillness felt wrong, like a held breath that could not be released. Elias sat by his desk, staring at his laptop. The screen was black. It had been for hours. Still, faint white letters began to appear one by one, slow and deliberate. You finally hear it. He waited. More letters appeared. Now we can speak clearly. Elias hesitated. Then against the silence, he whispered, "Who are you?" The words formed inside his chest but did not reach his ears. Another line appeared. The ones you shut out, the ones you called noise. He swallowed hard. His heartbeat sounded impossibly loud in his head. "You built this silence," the screen said. "You asked for it." He pushed the chair back, shaking his head. "No, I wanted peace. Just peace." Peace is only another kind of noise. The light in the room dimmed, though the lamp hadn't changed. The walls seemed to draw closer, the air thickening. For the first time, Elias realized he could see faint handprints in the dust along the plaster, as though someone had been pressing outward from the other side. He left the apartment. The hallway stretched endlessly in both directions. Every door was open. Inside each unit, the rooms were empty. No furniture, no people, only faint indentations in the carpet where something heavy had once been. He called out once, twice, no answer, not even an echo. At the far end of the corridor, a single light flickered. Beneath it, something glimmered, a fragment of glass from a broken mirror. When Elias bent to pick it up, his reflection stared back, slightly delayed. Its mouth moved a fraction after his, forming words he didn't say. "Stay." He dropped the shard. It clattered against the floor, and though he saw the motion, he heard nothing. Downstairs, the lobby was still lit, though no one manned the desk. The air smelled faintly of rain. Elias stepped outside. The city was not dead, but it was paused. Cars lined the streets, headlights on, drivers motionless. A bird hovered mid-flight, wings outstretched, suspended in air like an unfinished thought. He walked among them. None moved, none blinked. At the intersection, a digital billboard flickered, displaying static. The same rhythm that had haunted his walls pulsed in the light. 3 flashes, pause, 2 flashes, the pattern that had followed him for months. He approached. The image cleared. Words appeared across the screen. "We hear you now." And then beneath it, "Come home." He turned back toward his building. The windows stared like open eyes. One of them, his, glowed faintly. Inside, the apartment was exactly as he'd left it. The air was colder now, carrying a faint echo, as if the space were larger than before. The light from the city barely reached the corners. Elias stood in the doorway, unable to move. There was something about the way the shadows stretched, too long, bending toward him instead of away. He whispered again, though he couldn't hear it. "What do you want from me?" The laptop on his desk woke by itself. The screen filled with text, fast this time, too fast for him to read all of it. Words overlapping, stuttering, repeating. Among them, one phrase kept reappearing. "We are what remains when the noise is gone." He took a step closer. The air rippled the same way it had that day in the cafe when the barista's face had blurred, only now the distortion filled the room, bending light, warping shapes. For a moment, he saw other outlines moving in the static, pale, shifting forms that flickered at the edges of sight. Not people, exactly. Not shadows, either. More like reflections without mirrors. They didn't move toward him. They simply waited. The whisper came again, not through sound, but directly inside his thoughts. "You asked to be alone. You asked for silence. Now listen to what's left." The light dimmed further. His reflection in the window stood a heartbeat out of sync, blinking too slowly. The city beyond it was motionless. He reached out to touch the glass. It felt warm, almost pulsing, as if a second heartbeat lived behind it. And then, faintly, the reflection smiled. "You are not alone." The words appeared on the screen once more, perfectly synchronized with the movement of the reflection's mouth. Elias stepped back, heart hammering. "Stop," he whispered, though he could not hear it. The reflection did not move. But the lights in the apartment flickered, and behind the reflection, the city lights began to fade, one building at a time, until only his window remained lit. He didn't know how long he stood there. Seconds, hours, a lifetime. The silence deepened until he could no longer tell if he was breathing. Finally, he turned away from the window. The room was empty, though the walls seemed to shimmer faintly, like the surface of water. He sat at the desk and opened the laptop again. The text on the screen had changed once more. "It's quieter here, isn't it? You can stay." His own fingers began to type, though he didn't remember deciding to move them. "For how long?" The reply appeared instantly, "Until someone else starts listening." Elias stared at the screen. Then slowly, he closed the laptop. The glow faded, leaving only the dim reflection of his own face in the black surface. Outside, somewhere far below, the first sound in days broke the silence. A single, faint whisper carried up through the air shafts. A voice calling his name. He stood very still, listening, and then, without knowing whether he was awake or dreaming, he whispered back,
Thank you for listening, and for joining me through every moment of this quiet descent. If this story lingered in your mind, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves psychological horror and eerie storytelling. More tales are coming soon, stories about fear, memory, and the places between dreams and waking. Until next time, sleep well and beware the silence between voices.